Good, this is just test. We're just seeing how far away. So just tell me your full name.
Full name is Edward Walter Crutchley.
And you're known as Bud. Right?
And I'm known as Bud.
Sit back and relax, because this is going to be, we're just going to talk, but I want to be sure. You might have to come a little
Okay,
bit.
okay.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, just, but you don't have to look at it, or you can
Yes.
talk to me.
Yes.
I know, at first, when you... Today we're in Redmond, Oregon at the home of Edward Walter Crutchley, known to his friends as Bud. He was born October 16, 1921, in Brooklyn, New York. On July 20th, 1946, he married Jean Black, who was born January 27, 1924, in Orange, New Jersey. And they were married there. They had 7 children: Marcia, Susan, Mark, Gary, Ann, Brian, and Sandra. The interviewer today is Virginia Myler Collins, a member of the Bend chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. She shall be known as Ginny in the transcription. It's great to be here today, Bud. I'm glad to meet you and your wife, Jean. Did you grow up in Brooklyn?
Yes, I was born in Brooklyn and grew up there. Spent my childhood in Brooklyn.
Go to high school there?
Yes. I went to New Utrecht High School.
What is it?
New Utrecht.
Utrecht. Is that
New Utrecht. Brooklyn was originally settled by the Dutch, and there's a town in Holland called Utrecht,
I see.
and this was New Utrecht.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know. Now that's a fact I never knew before.
Yeah, it was settled by the Dutch.
Yeah. So New Utrecht High
Yes.
School.
Yes.
And when did you graduate?
Let's see. I think it was 1940.
Class of 40.
Class of 40.
Did you have, like my husband was in Los Angeles and they had summer of 42, winter of 42.
Yes, we had the same thing.
Did you?
Because
So
it
were
was
you-
very good, a big high school.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So were you the June, remember? or did-
I was afraid you were going to ask
Oh,
that.
dear. Well, that's okay.
Uh,
It's not important.
yeah,
I just was
I
curious.
forgot now.
Well, how did you get in the service? Did you go in right after graduation?
No. I was a freshman in college at St. Lawrence University, which is up in Canton, New York, and I was a freshman there. And I was a freshman in 1941, and when Pearl Harbor occurred, and in May, yes, it was May 1942, I decided to enlist in the Army Air Force.
Yeah. Had you ever flown before?
No, never been in an airplane, but it sounded quite exciting.
Yes.
I originally considered going into the Marine Corps, and at that time, believe it or not, you had to have letters of recommendation from local business people to get into the officers' training from the Marine Corps. And while I was gathering all these documents, the Army came out with their program of Air Force, and that sounded good, exciting. So I changed my mind and enlisted in the Air Corps.
Yeah. So, let's see, you were still on the East Coast. Where did you go to basic training?
Well, I'll tell you, I enlisted at Fort Drum, which is in near Watertown, New York, and we expected, there was 4 of us from college, went down to Watertown, and we expected to be called up to active duty. But the Air Force was not prepared at that time to expand rapidly. And so we were we were privates in the Army, and they told us to go back to college and wait to be called. We were placed on inactive duty, and they said, we'll call you up. It'll be a few months. Well, it turned out to be 9 months. They were not ready. They didn't have the facilities to call us up. And finally they called us up in, it was in January of '43, to basic training in New Jersey, Atlantic City.
Oh, yeah.
And we spent a month there in basic training.
Did you have to decide at that time what you were going to do or be in the Air Corps? You could be a navigator, you could train for piloting, or...
No, when you enlisted in the cadet program, you could become a pilot, a navigator,
Yeah.
determined by your potential and what you did in the training. Most everybody expected to be pilots, but we were classified as cadets.
Mm-hmm.
Classification. Following basic training, they still didn't have training facilities to accept the cadets. And we were sent, a group of us were sent to Syracuse University, up in Syracuse, New York, where we attended classes in Air Force kind of programs, navigation and higher mathematics, those kind of...
Weather, everything.
Yes, all things like that. And fortunately, a number of the credits I got there while I was there were accepted after the war when I finished up at St. Lawrence. We were there about 3 or 4 months, I think, and finally we shipped out to San Antonio, Texas, on a troop train, which was quite an experience.
I can imagine.
And we were sent to, as I said, to San Antonio, where the Air Force had a classification center. And we were there, I'm trying to recall, a couple of months anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
And in that facility, before we were shipped out and facilities opened to handle us as Air Corps cadets. Mm-hmm. And we shipped out, my group, to Cuero, Texas, a little town in Texas, for where we had basic training, flight training. Actually, the base was run by civilians, civilian pilots.
So this was basic piloting,
Yes.
flight training.
And first time in an airplane.
Oh boy, what an experience.
Yes, it was. We flew the aircraft called the PT-19,
Mm-hmm.
basic trainer, and we were there about 3 months, in which time we finally soloed. And
Was there a celebration when you soloed?
oh yes, yeah, that was a big event.
Sure.
And needless to say, quite an experience to finally the instructor told you you were ready, and
But you didn't believe it, did you?
well, I was quite anxious to try it.
It's different though when he gets out.
Yes, he got out of the aircraft and he was no longer there. It was quite an experience.
Yeah.
An unbelievable thrill
Yep.
to do it by yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, it was unbelievable.
Did you land the first time?
Oh,
First time, or
oh,
did you
yes.
have to go around?
We landed at great open pasture, so there was plenty of space to put the aircraft down.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So where did you go? And what was the name of that town? It sounded like
Cuero, C-U-E-R-O, I think that's the spelling. Just a little town, and I can't tell you which direction it was, located in
Yeah.
Texas, but.
And then where were you sent then?
And then we were shipped off to Waco, Texas, which is a pretty big city, a college town, as I recall.
Yes.
And that was, excuse me, I think I said, misspoke. Cuero, Texas was primary training, not basic, primary training. That's what it was called. And we shipped off to Waco, Texas for basic flight training. And that amounted to another 3 months of flight in an aircraft, obviously a more advanced training aircraft. It was the BT-13. Vultee made that aircraft. We called it everybody called it the bucket of bolts, or the vibrator. And again, we went through the procedure of flying with an instructor, and then when he determined you were ready for solo, you soloed in that aircraft.
Was that a twin engine?
No,
It was still a single engine.
A single engine, and at the end of that 3 months, the pilots were rated as to whether they were going to be single-engine fighter pilots or multi-engine bomber pilots or transporter or anything. Of course, everybody wanted to be a fighter pilot. That was an inkling. But at the end of basic training, based upon your instructor's recommendation, you either went to multi-engine advanced training or single engine, and I got my wish for single engine. I wanted to be a fighter pilot.
Yes.
We were shipped to Mission, Texas, which is down on the border with Mexico. And the name of the base was, let me think, I can't believe I forgot it.
You probably remembering a little bit.
Yes.
If you don't try to remember.
Moorfield,
see,
that's the
yeah.
name of it, yeah.
And it's M-O-O-R-E, isn't it?
Yes,
Moore.
yeah.
Okay. What happened there?
Well, the same routine as far as training with an instructor and flying with an instructor, and then soloing.
Okay. What were you flying? You weren't flying.
Yes, it was the AT-6. Advanced Trainer 6, called various names because it was used in the Navy as well. Um,
Were you doing pretend? Well, I know the bombing pilots would do bags of flour to practice dropping bombs. What did you do to practice aerial fighting? How can you simulate that?
Not too well. Most of our training was, we trained on instruments. We had to fly instruments, and we did that by going up with the instructor in another plane, and you lowered, or maybe he was in the plane with you. Yes, I think he was. And you lowered yourself down in the cockpit and did not look out, and you flew mostly instruments.
Mm-hmm.
And we also flew cross-country trips, navigation, testing our navigation ability. Night flying, we did some night flying, which was kind of scary. We also had Brazilian cadets in the Brazilian Air Force flying with us.
Were they training?
Yes.
Oh.
And it was difficult because of the language barrier.
You didn't speak Portuguese.
Well, the problem was they were mixed in with us in different kind of training, particularly in night flying, where we circled a field and we were controlled by the tower speaking to us, and some of the Brazilian cadets didn't understand the English coming out of the tower, so it was a little bit of a problem.
And the controllers were speaking Texan, right?
Yes.
It is. They were fixing the lineup. But that's interesting. I'd not heard about the fighter. I've interviewed quite a few bomber pilots, but not very many fighter pilots. They didn't get their wish, but they had exciting stories.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, no, I just was trying to see where we are now, about the end of 43, do you think?
Well,
Must be close to...
I was in the class of, it was later than that. I was in the class of 44D, which is April of 44.
Okay.
So maybe when I started in Cuero, maybe I was in the classification center in San Antonio longer than a few months. I've forgotten exactly. But I was in the class of 44D, which was April of 1944 when we finished and became commissioned pilots. Yes. I have to tell you one story of the night flying.
Please.
We had to fly a certain pattern of I've forgotten how many miles, but it was a long trip of maybe an hour and a half night, and we would take off and fly a certain course till we hit a certain city, and then take our second leg of the flight to another point, and then circle back down to land at the field. And when I was on my final leg of the flight, I couldn't, at night, at that time, Texas was pretty black.
Yes,
when
I
you're
was
flying
thinking that.
around, and I became convinced that I was lost,
Oh, dear.
and because I was overdone, flew more time than I
Then you'd
scheduled.
allocated, yeah.
Yeah. And finally I saw an airfield, and I thought it was probably in Mexico.
Oh, dear.
And I was wondering what was going to happen to me. I'd probably been washed out. And I landed at that field and taxied around. And I noticed how similar it was to Moorefield.
And you were home.
And I was home.
Oh, my goodness, but that is
And they
so...
asked me if I've had any trouble. No, not at all.
No.
Piece of cake.
Came right there. Oh, gosh. Did you ever admit that to anybody else?
Oh, no.
No, you never tell, but now you're telling for your great-great-great-grandkids. You're telling that story. Well, that, I like stories like that. That's fun. I mean, that's the human side of what goes on. And you would never ever admit it to your buddies, and you'd just all get together and brag, right? Well, so now we're getting close to the time that you're going to be released to go somewhere and do what you've been trained to do. So how did that go?
Yeah, following that, we graduated, and a number of us were assigned to what they called advanced fighter training, and we shipped to Thomasville, Georgia, and where we flew P-40s, the Warhawk.
Oh, yes.
The which was our number one fighter going into the war, and we got actual combat training. And the interesting, at that time, when you flew the P-40, the first time you flew the P-40, you were by yourself, because they didn't have
No dual cockpit.
no
then.
dual cockpits at all.
Uh-huh.
And what you did was sit in the airplane and learn where all the instruments were, every instrument in the cockpit. And you had to be able to touch the instrument blindfolded, shut your eyes, and an instructor would stand on the wing and say, touch the speed indicator, touch the brake handle, the release of the handle you lowered the wheels of, or touch this instrument, and you had to be able to do that blindfolded instantly, and then they considered you competent enough to know the cockpit and fly and take off. Yeah. And it was quite an experience, because the difference between a combat aircraft and a training aircraft is night and day. And the instructor, we were all put in groups of 4 or 5 to one instructor. And the instructor we had in the P-40s said he would buy a drink at the bar for anybody who would make a 3-point landing the first time they flew a P-40. And when I remember going down the runway and hitting the throttle and being alarmed is the word, at the exhaust, the flames coming out of the exhaust pipes and racing down this runway. And in flying those kind of fighters, which has a tail wheel instead of being up in a position where you can see where you're going. You can't see out of this in front of the aircraft until you get the tail up in the air. So it was difficult racing down the runway with the tail wheels still down, and the roar of this engine, a big engine, and finally you get up in the air. And the landing I made was right at the end of the runway you're supposed to land, and it was a 3-point landing. And
Wow.
I never landed the P-40 again that well.
But you got your drink.
I got your drink that night.
Oh, yeah, that, and for your very first time,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Um,
The tendency, I think, is to want to land on the front two wheels, keep the tail up so you can see where you're going, and then let it down nicely.
Yeah. Well, which I have to do with that kind of an aircraft. You lower, come up over the runway and lower the speed until you actually stall out
Yeah.
and drop to the ground. You can't come out in the front wheels. You have to stall out that aircraft. Yeah.
How long have they been flying those by the time you were being trained in them?
Oh, we were there 4 or 5 months or something. A long time. And we practiced more of the combat things. We practiced aerial gunnery. We practiced skip bombing, which is simulating a bombing run down on the ground and releasing a bomb. And which we never did in actuality. We never skip bombed or anything, but we practiced that.
The P-40 had what kind of machine guns on it?
It had 6 machine guns, 50 caliber machine guns. And a lot of the aircraft we were flying were old aircraft.
Did you, during this training period, were you issued new uniforms, newly made, or were they from World War I or something? Do you remember whether you got up to date? Some of the fellows I've talked to said they were issued ancient, 20-year-old uniforms.
No,
They were
in fact, after we were commissioned, we had to buy our uniforms.
Oh, really?
So we were issued flight uniforms, which but they were not. They were modern.
Modern at the time,
Yeah.
anyway. What were you commissioned as then?
Second lieutenant.
Second lieutenant.
Yes, everybody.
And you
at
got your wings. You had
Yes.
a ceremony. Now, was that in at Mission Field or Moorfield?
Yes.
That's
yes.
where you got your wings.
Yeah.
Did you have family come at the time?
No.
Nobody there to see you
No.
do it? Oh.
But it was great procedure, and you were just waiting for somebody to salute you.
Oh,
that's
yes,
a big thing.
of course. How wonderful. Well, now, were you getting anxious to go and fight?
Oh yeah.
Ready to go.
Yeah. We were always felt we were ready to go, but the typical Army thing, and hurry up and wait, and
So did you
a
hang out?
lot of the classes. I remember when I got overseas and found out that the group were assigned, a fellow who were assigned to the group I was assigned to, and he got over there before me, but he graduated in a class after me. So they didn't send them to P-40 combat training. So it's just the Army when they needed guys and when they shipped them.
Did you have any fellows that had been fighting with the British, early on, that came back then to be with the
No,
U.S.
no,
Army?
no.
So when did you get shipped? And did you must have gone on a ship, or did they have flights going?
No, we weren't on a ship. It was in December when we shipped. We moved from Thomasville, Georgia, where we were assigned, to Florida. I've forgotten which city, I could recall it, for reassignment. And then we were put on sometime in December, and we were put on a troop train, and we're shipped up to New York City, and we boarded the Queen Elizabeth. The Queen Elizabeth was never, when it was finished, it was never used as a pleasure cruiser. It was immediately placed in troop carrying duties, and it was quite a ship.
Pretty fancy accommodations.
Yes, and it was interesting because it was run by the Royal Navy, and when we got on board, we were assigned to staterooms, 4 or 5 officers to a stateroom, which was, it turned out, luxury. And it was interesting to hear somebody talk to us in an English accent. He was assigned to us. The Queen Elizabeth and the Queen Mary, both of them, went across the ocean unescorted. They weren't escorted by, they were fast enough to go by themselves. And it was a very, very rough trip.
Crossing the Atlantic in December is miserable.
And we were, the first day out, we had 2 meals, breakfast and an evening meal, and we were assigned a certain time to be in the mess hall. And after the first day, we could go there anytime because it was a rough trip and everybody was getting sick and the mess hall was open. And it was pretty rough.
Were you fortunate to be one of the ones that didn't, or?
Oh, I did not get, yes, I was fortunate. I did not get sick. And we had 15,000 troops on the ship.
My.
Imagine if it had ever been hit by submarines.
Yeah.
And we were, the Air Force guys were kind of drafted to help out the infantry officers be with the troops down in the lower levels. And I remember going down there. You take an elevator, actually, going down.
Sure, a cruise ship has to have an elevator.
And you get below decks, and these infantry enlisted men were in big, just gigantic rooms.
Packed in, right?
And packed in,
Yeah.
bunks on the sides, and everybody was sick. And they were using their helmets, they were using everything, and it's miserable. The Johns were all backed up, and, oh, it was miserable. And I'll never forget some private looking at me and seeing I had wings on, and he said, you're lucky. You probably never get affected by this motion and everything going on. And I nearly got sick then.
Well, sure. Yeah, being down there would make you sick.
It was, they were allowed up, on deck periodically. I've forgotten, I don't know how often, but once or twice a day for a short period of time.
Just to get
It was
air.
a very difficult trip.
And it's long, isn't it? 2 weeks or more?
Oh, no.
Oh, really?
We 5 days, 5 or 6 days at the most. And we landed in Scotland, in, not Edinburgh, the other city. Hate it when
I know. Don't
memory
try.
fails.
Don't try. In Scotland, though.
Yes.
Interesting. Were you
Yeah.
headed to, where were you headed?
Well, we were headed, Glasgow is the name of the port.
Mhm.
And, yeah, we were headed there. And we had no trouble, other than the rough weather. We had no other trouble, and landed there. And I'll never forget when I got off the ship, seeing these little Scottish kids in short pants. And it was miserable weather, cold. Anyhow, we got there, and we were shipped to down in England to a replacement depot. And I've got to tell you the story. They had a great big ballroom, and at that time, bridge was a very popular game. Everybody played bridge, everybody. And they had bridge tables filled this big ballroom.
And now, are we in Scotland?
No.
After
I'm
you
sorry.
got-
I'm
what
back. I'm back in the Queen Elizabeth.
Oh, back on the ship.
I'm
Oh,
back on the ship. And we were in the ballroom, and I love bridge, and I'd get down and sit in a chair on the bridge table, and the ship would start tilting, and you would end up at another table. You're skidding across the ballroom floor.
all of a sudden, had a different partner. Oh,
It was something.
well,
Anyhow, when we got in England, we were shipped to a replacement depot. And again, the time might have been a week or something like that. And finally, orders came out, and we were 5 of us in our group were assigned to the 20th Fighter Group in Kingscliff, England, which was just south of Peterborough, England. And again, we went through orientation, and had to sit in the P-51, which was that 20th Fighter Group originally flew P-38s, and in the summer of 1944, they replaced the P-38s with P-51s, which was a marvelous fighter aircraft, one of the best, rated the best in the world at that time. And we went through the same orientation and sitting in the cockpit of the P-51, shutting your eyes, and you had to be able to touch instantly all the instruments in the cockpit without hesitation. And before you could take off and fly the P-51. And
Did they have trainers of any kind, or first time you sit in a 51 and
the
know
first
the
time
instruments,
you
you're gonna
fly
go.
a P-51, you're by yourself. Yeah, yeah. That's what they did back then. It's not the same following that, but that's the way it was. When they had no two-seaters, just one seater. And it was a marvelous, marvelous aircraft. And compared to the P-40, it was the Mercedes-Benz of aircraft. Oh, it's beautiful
But it was
aircraft.
like wearing it, wasn't it?
Hmm?
It was as though you were wearing it.
Yes,
You just
exactly.
thought about
You
what you
strapped it
wanted
on.
to do.
You strapped it on,
Yeah.
and it became attached to you.
Yeah.
It was marvelous aircraft. And we probably flew 10 or 15 hours training in a P-51 before we were ready for combat. And
As far as firing from a P-51 versus a P-40, was it better that way too?
oh, there was no comparison. By that time the P-40 was outdated and was no longer being used. The P-40 really only was used in the beginning of the war, early years of the war, and primarily by the General Chennault's it's awful not being able to recall. The Flying Tigers,
Oh, yes.
they flew the P-40. But after initial war, a year or so in the war, they weren't using the P-40. P-40 wasn't being used other than the Flying Tigers. That was replaced by more modern aircraft. And the primary job in the 8th Air Force with the fighter groups was to escort the bombers to the target and back. It was primarily escort work. Prior to that, the bombers being escorted by P-38s and the P-47s, but they didn't have the range and distance that the P-51 had. And they were the bombers were taking quite a number of losses because of the fact that the fighters could only escort them so far into Germany, and then they would have to leave because they were running low on gas. When the P-51 came along, particularly with the drop tanks, like I see the model over there,
Yes, I see that.
we could escort them all the way into the target and back.
And back, yeah.
And that changed the whole air war around when the P-51 showed up. It was quite an aircraft.
I've seen Bob Hoover do his demonstration in the P-51 at Oshkosh and Reno air races and everything. Yeah. Tell me about some of the bombing runs you accompanied. Did you get into the oil fields, bombing the oil fields?
No, I wasn't on that. Those occurred prior to when I got there. Of course, I got there, and I guess I was assigned to the 20th Fighter Group sometime in February '45. So the war was kind of winding down. I flew my first combat mission on the 15th of March, and I only flew for about 6 weeks, and the war ended. But in that six weeks, I flew.
How many total hours?
I flew for a total combat hours of 117, and at that time, that's 21 missions, and at that time, a combat tour was made up of 300 combat hours or 50 missions. So in that 6 weeks, I flew nearly a half a combat tour, which was quite a bit in that time frame.
Yeah, that's a lot of hours. And they had pardon me. They had a restriction that you couldn't fly more than 50, wasn't that right?
Oh,
So at that rate, if the war wasn't over, you'd have been done in 6 weeks.
yes, I would have.
Were there any of those escorts that gave you trouble? Were you ever fired on directly or hit?
Well, I was never hit, but I was fired upon. The flak, the German artillery from the ground, was very accurate and quite deadly, and that would primarily they were shooting, hoping to hit the bombers.
Yeah.
But frequently the flak came into the fighter escort, and it was scary when you see the flak explode, and you see the red flame, and you see it hit. I saw it hit bombers. I've seen bombers get shot down, primarily by German jets. And I have to tell you, we could escort the bombers throughout their whole mission and back. But if there were German fighters coming around, we had to drop our extra gas tanks, external gas tanks, in order to get in combat mode and start chasing the German fighters. Once we did that, our supply of gasoline was limited. In fact, the German fighters usually made an appearance early on to get the fighters, P-51s, to drop their tanks early and reduce their number of hours they could escort the bombers. Mm-hmm. I had a couple of experiences. I had one experience where the engine cut out at high altitude, and I had to leave the flight and start down trying to get out of Germany. And I decided as I was descending without an engine running that I would bail out at 10,000 feet. I was over what's called the Black Forest in Germany, southern Germany. But I was trying everything to get the engine started again, and at about 11 or 12,000 feet, it suddenly started. To my relief.
Oh my, yes. Oh.
And I flew back to the base, not touching any controls. And when I landed, after I landed and taxied down the runway, their engine was in idle and it cut out and stopped, and they had to come out and tow the aircraft off the runway. And if I had ever throttled back on my way home after I got started again, I don't know what happened.
You would have quit again.
Yeah.
Was it fuel contamination, do you think, or what?
No, it's just a bad engine. In fact, they tested it. I looked up the record on it, and the flight, the time before I flew it, it had someone was flying it in England, and the engine cut out at high altitude, and they had to make a dead stick landing. And then they worked on it, and I flew it, and the same thing happened. So it was a problem engine, and I finally junked it. Another experience I had, we were over Germany, and I was flying in a position they called tail end Charlie, a number 4 position. And I looked out on my left wing, and there was flying my left wing was a German jet, the Me-262, a German aircraft flying on my wing. And I looked at it very carefully and came to the conclusion, yes, that's a German aircraft. Why he didn't fire at me, come up, I don't know. Anyhow, I finally decided that the best thing, I turned into him, attacked him, and he turned over and went. A German jet was the fastest thing, much faster than we were, and he just disappeared. I was told later that that was not that unusual, that the German jet was flown by their best pilots, and at the end of the war they flew on a number of aircraft wings.
I read a story about a fellow who had a similar experience, but his airplane was coming apart, and this German, and I'm not sure, I think it might have been a bomber, an American bomber, was badly.
And he was escorted to the coast.
And they just met each other.
Yes, I remember that story.
story?
Yeah, I remember that story.
And
yes.
What an incredible,
Yeah.
he didn't shoot him down, and he could have.
Yeah.
So
But-
I think you're right. At the end of the war, they knew they were
Yes.
beaten. And
I remember sitting in the cockpit looking at the other pilot, and he's looking at me, just like that.
oh, but that gives you chills
Yes,
just
yes.
thinking about it.
Yeah.
And you probably wouldn't have shot at him either.
No, I didn't know what to do.
That's right.
And I
Oh,
just
my.
turned into him and to see what he would do, and he immediately rolled over and disappeared. He was so fast.
Those were the first jets, weren't they?
Yes,
in that
they
time?
were, and we didn't have anything to combat that.
No.
Nothing. It's a good thing they didn't have a lot of them, or it would have been a different story.
Yeah.
Some of our missions we would go leave escort, leave the fighters after they dropped their bombs, and we would go down on the deck and attack any target we could find. And you have to remember that this was after the Battle of the Bulge, when the stories broke about how many Americans were killed deliberately after they had surrendered. Stories like that. We had actual war orders that we could shoot at anything that moved in Germany. and we were looking for railroad trains and any trucks or tanks or anything we could find on the roads. But mostly we would go down after the German airfields and hope to shoot up
planes
on the ground. Yeah.
Oh,
It was kind of a dangerous thing.
sure. They must have been protected.
Oh,
by
yes,
the aircraft
yes.
Fire.
They had one experience I had doing that. They had railroad cars off to one side, and as we came across the field, the sides of the freight cars dropped away, and they were sitting there with machine guns. And when you see the red traces going under your wings, it was kind of a dangerous thing.
Yeah. So the war was over, and you were stationed in England.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. When
Okay.
did you get word?
When the war ended, and it looked like maybe when the Japanese surrendered, at that time, rotation back to the States was done on a point system, because there had a lot of military men over in Germany that had been there a long time. And you were rated on how much time you spent overseas and a number of other factors. And if you had enough points, you were shipped back to the United States. And I was shipped over to Germany in the Army of Occupation, which was quite an experience. And I was shipped to a German base in Ansbach, Germany, which was near Nuremberg. And I spent 9 months over there, assigned to that base.
Anything interesting while you were in Ansbach?
Well, we toured around Germany quite a bit, much as we could.
Did you know Jean then?
Oh yes,
You
yes.
knew her before
I had
you
met Jean in college in St. Lawrence, and actually we were engaged before I went overseas. And we exchanged letters. I don't know what happened to all the letters we exchanged, but they're not. I don't know what happened to them.
Did you move several times? That's usually what happens to things is
Yeah,
when you move,
yeah.
they get lost or shipped to the wrong address. So you hadn't seen her then for at least...
She visited me
in Texas?
in Georgia, in Thomasville.
Oh, yeah.
She came down on a trip and visited me. She was there about a week in Thomasville. But that's the only time I saw her. And she also visited me when I was assigned to Syracuse, up in Syracuse University.
Mm-hmm.
She had an aunt who lived in Syracuse, so we saw each other quite a bit up there.
So after the war and your being in Germany for 8 or 9 months, I guess you said.
Yeah, about 9 months.
What kind of things did you do there? What were your assignments? You weren't flying.
Well,
were you?
no. Well, to get flight pay, you have to fly 4 hours a month.
Excellent.
So we would make sure we got a flight pay, which is quite a substantial amount, of 50% of base pay.
Mm-hmm.
I was assigned to warehouse depot, aircraft parts in Ansbach, on our base in Ansbach was a supply depot, and I was assigned there, and I was in charge of the warehouse function. So I did ground duty, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that help you when you got out? Did you go into any kind of flying afterwards? Were you commercial pilot?
No, I didn't. I wanted to finish college, and that's what I did. I want to tell you about the Germans at that time. They didn't have anything. Pretty much the bombing had deprived them of anything. When we went out, which we did a number of times, we went out hunting for deer, and to supplant, help our
diet.
Because we were on rations. Anyhow, the German kids would come out of their houses and follow us around, and they would pick up cigarette butts.
Oh.
They would take any part of the deer you didn't want and take it home. And I had a lot of good experiences with the kids in Germany.
Yeah.
And when we came out of Germany in a troop train, and the troop train went from base to base picking up guys that were being shipped back to the United States. So consequently, it went very slowly through Germany. And we had no problems at all, but when we got into France, at night, some of the natives would climb on the train and steal whatever they could.
Oh.
So I had some bad experiences in that respect on the troop train.
What happened?
Well, we had to put guards on it, but the comparison between coming through Germany and coming in through France was night and day. We came back on a Liberty ship in June, I guess it was, and it was a 2-week trip compared to the going over on the Queen Elizabeth. It was quite a.
Did you go on the Queen Elizabeth, not the Queen Mary? You went over on
the Elizabeth, yeah.
2 weeks coming back.
Yes.
Well, but was it a more pleasant weather though?
Oh yes,
December
it was.
is awful
Oh yeah.
on the Atlantic.
It was fine. We would just lay out on deck and get a suntan and kill time somehow.
Yeah.
And then I was assigned to when we landed to Camp Kilmer in New Jersey. That's right, where I was separated.
Mm-hmm. So you were out of the service. You didn't.
Out of the service.
Did you stay in touch with any of your buddies?
Oh yes.
Did you?
Yes.
Are you still in touch?
Yeah. Well, a number of them. We had an association, 20th Fighter Group Association, where we had reunions and guys got together. And I kept in touch with a number of them, but the ones I'm down to one guy, and he's in Texas. The other 4 or 5 have passed on, unfortunately.
Yeah. How about local military groups, you know, a lot of veterans in Bend. I mean, hundreds and hundreds.
Yeah.
Have you been to the Band of Brothers meeting?
No.
It's on Monday noon at Jake's Diner in Bend. And the other day, my husband goes most Mondays, and the other day they had to bring tables in. There were over 100 guys there for lunch. They're going to start meeting in the other side of the restaurant. The word is out, and they have, the oldest guy's 95, I think. They, and there's young women that were, I interviewed a gal that was in the Marines in the 80s. So it's just there's no rules or no officers of any kind. It's just a get-together. But there's VFW and American Legion and the ANA, the American Naval or Aviation Association, and lots. So I really want to thank you very much. It was a great interview, and it was great meeting you.
Thank you. Thank you.